Welcome to episode 5 of Vibe with Venerables. 1 hour of live Dharma and dialogue where you get to talk directly to a great Venerable. I'm Ming, co-founder of Buddhism-dot-net and your host. And this week we continue to have our very special guest, my co-founder of Buddhism-dot-net and my co-author of this book. And never miss a marketing opportunity. Soryu Forall. He is the founder and abbot also of Monastery Academy. And for those who missed the joke last week, I joked that we are the Buddha Pest brothers because he's Buddha and I'm Pest. So this week, Master Soryu will reveal what we can do about papañca, which is mental proliferation. So this is the review episode. Don't miss it. So Master Soryu will speak for roughly 30 minutes and then answer your questions live. And as a reminder, this session will be recorded and uploaded onto YouTube later. So with that, Master Soryu, can we invite you to start by leading us with a prayer, and if you want to, a short meditation?
Yes. Let's pray by giving honor to the three jewels, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And then we'll have a short time of silence. And then I'll speak, and then we'll have even more time for practice after that before the question and answer. Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. Saṅgham saranang gacchāmi. Allow yourself to simply settle into your breath. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Today we will continue to look into this issue of conflict caused by our tendency to make things up in our mind and then believe in them and hold to them, drawn away from harmony and drawn into conflict at precisely the moment that we believe that we're holding to harmony and setting aside conflict. I'd like to bring our attention to an amazing quote, which we find in the 94th text of this amazing 22nd book, the section on the skandhas of the Saṃyutta Nikāya, in which the Buddha states, "I do not dispute with the world. Rather, it is the world that disputes with me." A proponent of the Dharma does not dispute with anyone in the world. an amazing statement. He is able to teach, function in the world without disputing with the world. And so right away, I want to bring our attention to a conversation last time between June and myself, in which she was talking about wanting to make the world a better place and doing so by holding to, asserting certain positions. And I brought up the point that to the extent that we can let go of those positions, we are in a position to propound those positions. To the degree that we can let go of an assertion, we can profess that assertion. The reason that this is so important to look at is that we will note that the vast majority of people do not want to destroy the world. And yet, the way that they see the world, the way that they live in the world, nonetheless is causing the destruction of the world. We see species extinction at a higher rate than in billions of years. We see cultural destruction around the globe. We see abuse of humans and other beings everywhere. We see the destruction of life on Earth in a way that perhaps can't be compared to all but a very few occasions of the history of this planet. And people are doing this, but not because they want to. Nobody's thinking, how can I destroy life? Why then is this happening? Well, because whatever we hold on to, that is destroying the world. This is very hard for us to accept. We believe I should hold on to this. It's holding on to this that's doing good. It's difficult to admit it's holding on to this that is the conflict. Now let's look at it from the other direction. There are many, many people who want to save the world, who want to prevent this destruction, but are failing to do so. So once again, very few people want to destroy life, but are. Very many people want to save the planet, save the world, but aren't. And why is that? Well, because whatever you hold on to, that is destroying the world. And we try to save the world by holding on to a certain view, a certain opinion, a certain perspective, a certain prapañca. We make up an opinion about things and we hold to it thinking, this is how I will save the world, without seeing that the people who are destroying the world without trying, the people who are not saving the world despite trying, are both doing the same thing, holding to a certain position. The Buddha is offering us a completely different approach, which is difficult for us to believe in because it's impossible for us to imagine. All of that imagination is just prapañca. Therefore, I make this answer in such a way that I know it was severe. And yet we see that many people want to serve the world because they see people doing harm. And then slowly time passes and they themselves become the thing that they're trying to resolve. They hate those who are doing what they disagree with. They enter into a mind of ill will, as Meng has often brilliantly explained. And because of that, they become the problem they're trying to solve rather than resolving the problem they're trying to solve. Therefore, we have to be completely clear that while we do not say that conflict is the act of modeling the world, we don't say that conflict is the act of making things explicit. We do point out that the act of modeling the world, the act of making anything explicit, is dangerous. What does this mean? It means that the mind just models the world. This is one way of thinking about prapañca. It just makes things explicit. That's another way of thinking about prapañca. That's what the mind does. Okay, fine. But To believe that the models are correct, this is conflict. To believe that our explanations are true, this is conflict. The moment that we believe that our minds accurately perceive, at that moment, we have entered into conflict with the world. To make it even more stark, to believe that any form of intelligence can solve the problems of the world is the problem in the world. Again, I know this is severe. We think of intelligence as the thing that solves problems. Intelligence may solve problems and it may not. If we believe that intelligence is correct, that it can solve the problem, at that moment, intelligence cannot solve the problem. How can we understand this? By seeing directly for ourselves through practice that there is wisdom. There is compassion. Wisdom is not a form of intelligence. It is not something that is made up. It is not an explanation. Compassion also is not a form of intelligence. Wisdom and compassion are not models of the world. To be completely clear on this, conditional wisdom is the world. To gain what we call conditional wisdom is to realize the world. And unconditional wisdom is beyond the world, is free of the world. The world, exactly as it is seen and lived by one who has let go of the world, is itself compassion. The world, exactly as it is seen and lived by one who has let go of the world, is compassion. That world is compassion. Neither of these, neither wisdom nor compassion, are models. Neither of them are explanations. Because we directly realize this, wisdom and compassion are able to use intelligence, use models, use explanations, use prapañca, and they are not used by it. So it's of the utmost importance that we know that there is something to be awakened to. Now, if we look at this in terms of monastics, monks, nuns, those who have totally given their lives and demonstrated that through their lifestyle to the complete realization of the Dharma, well, then for them, the end of perception and feeling is utterly necessary. This term, the end of perception and feeling, is a bit confusing. It just means what the words mean. It means all perception ceases, all feeling ceases. But it still is a bit confusing. So another way to consider it is that for monks and nuns, it is utterly necessary to drop body and mind, to shed body and mind. This direct experience is the goal of the holy life. Because of that, it is possible to gain realization. Because of this realization, it is possible to gain liberation. Because of liberation, it is possible to gain the wisdom needed to function in the world. This functioning of the Dharma in the world due to the liberation of realization, of the direct experience, of the shedding of body and mind. This is what we call compassion. Because of that, we are able to live without adding to the destruction of life in any way. Now, of course, there has already been certain karma, certain choices that we have made, and that plays out. Just in the same way that there could be a record player spinning, you unplug it, it will spin, continue to spin. But it is not being accelerated. In the same way, we are able to live, to actually live a real life without adding to the destruction of life in any way. And as we live out that life, we resolve suffering. This wisdom may be alloyed with compassion so that we can take on the suffering of all beings. Now, at times it may seem as if we are therefore participating in the creation of suffering, but we're not clinging, we're not holding on, we're simply not holding on to not holding on. For that reason, we can meet people who are holding on, and by meeting them, demonstrate love rather than separation. But we have to be completely clear at times like this. We have to be honest with ourselves that this is like an alcoholic choosing to enter a bar to help others. If this alcoholic has even the slightest desire for a drink, then it's extremely dangerous to enter that bar. That's the reason that I say that while it's not models or explanations that cause the problems, we are so addicted to those that to engage in them remains dangerous. And oftentimes, when someone says, I'm going to go into this bar to help someone, they're just pretending to be friends when really they just are addicts. They want to drink. And they're pretending that the friendship is the reason for entering the bar, but then they're just adding another problem on top of a problem. Therefore, monks and nuns must realize that which is beyond perception and feeling, which is beyond existence, beyond non-existence. And it is exactly that that makes them into the incomparable field of merit for the world. However, many of us are not monks or nuns, and so we have to ask, what about lay people? Here I am living in the world. Something that's hard for us to see about power in the world is that in terms of the human world, collaboration is power. For humans, the ability to collaborate constitutes power. It's not physical strength. People aren't powerful because they have physical strength. If you look around and you ask, are the most powerful people in the world in their 20s or in their 50s or older? Well, obviously it's the older people, not the younger people. But the younger people are far stronger. Why is that? Well, because they haven't gained this capacity to collaborate. There are many skills involved in collaboration. But what's important for us to see as lay people in this modern world is that the thing that makes the big decisions, the thing that is consistent through a civilization isn't specific leaders, but is instead a huge collaborative network in which individuals can come and go, which you could call a bureaucracy, a huge global bureaucracy that is in the governmental systems and the financial systems and even the religious systems. What matters about this is that for most of these systems, the thing that allows that collaboration is precisely that the people in them hold to fixed views. That there's prapañca, we make things up about the world. We say things are like this, things are like that. Money, of course, is the obvious example of this. We make up money, and then we're imprisoned by it. Then we have to serve it. Wait, we made money up, and now we're serving it. How did that happen? We spend our lives serving an imaginary entity that we ourselves invented. Why? Because the bureaucracy holds to that view, and that holding to the view is what allows collaboration worldwide. Well, incredibly, and I know it's very difficult to see this, but whether in the East, where there's a Hindu or a Confucian bureaucracy, Buddhists have tried to develop an alternative method to create a large-scale collaboration based not on fundamentalism, but based on direct realization. Or you can look in the West, in the Greek philosophical world. Again, nowadays you see Buddhists versus dogmatists versus academics. Nowadays in the modern world, we have humanists, people who see the world according to a humanist perspective. Holding on to humanist values is how they collaborate. Out of that, you get, say, democracy or capitalism. And you get accelerationists, out of which you get other things, technological growth, economic growth. Holding to certain positions has allowed an enormous collaboration worldwide, and Buddhists are attempting, in our little way, to offer a different kind of collaboration, not based on holding to fixed views. So our great challenge is how to collaborate without holding on to prapañca. The moment you hold on to all this stuff you make up, all these explanations, those very made up entities, those very explanations assail you, and you find yourself serving them even at the global scale. But that holding on is in conflict. That conflict is just made global through this collaboration, and suddenly all of us find ourselves, without even meaning to, being in conflict with nature itself. In direct conflict, day after day, in our economic activities, financial choices, we're causing the destruction of Earth without knowing why. It's as if we're being assailed by something. But what are we being assailed by? We're being assailed by stuff we made up. Our own mental proliferation is somehow controlling our lives at scale. So the challenge for us is how to let go of that clinging, and then how to work together in wisdom and compassion. This is the great challenge of a layperson. And so today we can actually explore how to do this. And the most important part of it, in terms of the initiating this practice, is that every thought we have, we immediately are capable of asking. It's not that we have to do this all the time, but we're going to practice asking, because we should be capable of asking the question, how is this wrong? How is this not true? Any thought. Any thought. We can say, so-and-so is in power. But then we just should be able to say, how is this not true? Otherwise, we're clinging to that explanation, and that clinging is creating a conflict-based life for even us. Now, having done that, we can say that thought, once we're clear it's wrong in this way, then we can say, well, it's not even wrong, because it would be like flipping a coin, and it lands, and it says, maybe you say it's heads. Then you say, no, it's wrong. It's not heads. Well, then you just know it's tails. But in fact, these thoughts, this prapañca, they're not even right or wrong. They're just made up. That's it. They're just made up things. They're not right or wrong. And so then we can enter into a state of mind in which we return to the breath. Each time we do this, we have a thought, and then we actually explore. I do not recommend that you only return to the breath. For monks and nuns, that may be appropriate. But for us, we have to do the work for the world. We ask, how is this wrong? And then we take it even further. How is it not even wrong? And then we return to the breath. And we find right in the breath a sweet compassion, a sweet love for all beings. Then we see, can I meet people and work with them in this state of mind? I want to bring up another example for this. Everything on the internet, the moment we see it, we should be capable of asking. And I mean everything on the internet. The moment we see it, we should be able to ask, how is this wrong? And then, having clarified that for ourselves, we then say, how is it not even wrong? And then we return to the breath. So I want to repeat again. People don't want to destroy the world, but they are. And why? Because whatever you hold on to, that is conflict with the world. People want to save the world, but are not. Why? Because whatever you hold on to, that is in conflict with the world. Therefore, I give this severe practice every thought, everything you see on the internet. How is this wrong? How is it not even wrong? Because there is something to be awakened to here and now. And it is possible to live in accord with that, meet others in accord with that, work together in accord with that, and offer a solution. So let's practice. Let's do some practice. Now, we have about 10 minutes left for practice. And so take a moment to allow yourself to think. You can allow yourself to think. And then whatever thought, ask the question, how is this wrong? How is this not true? And then take it further. How is this not even wrong? How is this thought not even not true? And allow yourself to return to your breath. And again, have a thought, think up something. Doesn't matter, could be anything. Something about yourself, something about someone else, something about the world situation. And then ask, how is this thought incorrect? And then ask, how is this thought not even incorrect? And allow yourself to return to your breath. And once again, there is something to be seen, realized here. If we only become senselessly skeptical, then that's just the next thing we're caught in. We let go of the thought carefully, and then when we return to the breath, we awaken to something. Even if you then think, well, is this a good enough something? Well, great, perfect. How is that thought not true? And I know it seems, wait, it was a question. And yet I still ask, How is that question not true? And how is it not even not true? And as you do this, not about coming up with a clever explanation, you feel the shift in your body as you let go. As you let go of that thought. And so you return to your breath. It's essential to encounter that. Otherwise, we're just endlessly incapacitating ourselves with skepticism. This is a fine stage to go through, but it's our responsibility to serve the world. And so we contact something right here, then we attempt to connect within that clarity. Very good. Now let's, for this next 5 minutes, do what is, I hope, fun. So feel free to go on the internet. Just go to some webpage, whatever you want. Until you found some claim, something the internet is informing you of. So right now I'm on a Wikipedia page about a certain Hindu teacher named Shankaracharya. And I've read a claim about this individual. Now I'll close my eyes and I simply ask, how is this not true? And then, how is it not even not true? And know that as you do this, you're serving all beings. This is an act of compassion. You are showing the way to let go of these endless acts of prapañca that the internet is. It's more challenging, of course. You're helping countless beings who were involved in putting that claim on the internet by letting go of that claim. Until finally you can allow yourself to return to your breath. And I know it's challenging, but let's just try again. Just going to try again. Goes to some other place. And if you were just at a web page where you tend to see things that you would agree with, then you may want to stay with that. Or you may want to go to a web page where tends to say things that you disagree with. We're dealing with both in exactly the same way in this exercise. So now I'm on another page. I'm reading it. Don't overburden yourself. As soon as you have something, close your eyes and ask, how is this incorrect? In what specific way is this incorrect? In what specific way is this not worth adhering to? And in what way is this not even incorrect? And allow yourself to return to your breath. Very good. Excellent. So now we have a chance to discuss this, a chance to talk about this exercise, because it's one that I hope we use countless times a day, to the point that we consistently enter this clarity, which I hope many of you can feel. I can feel it very much right now. It's freedom, clarity, mysteriously connected with compassion. I hope we use it. The more we think, the more we use this. The more we're on the internet, the more we use this, to the point that we can actually collaborate with others in this clarity and compassion. So, if it's possible, perhaps this is the time to enter into the question and answer period.
It is possible. Maybe not, but it is. I'm kidding. So as usual, I'm gonna this Q&A time. I'm gonna ask you to use the hand raising virtual function of Zoom to get my attention. And for those who don't know how to do that, yeah, wave at the screen. Choose me, just so I can identify you. So with that, we have one question from Robin. So Robin, I'm gonna ask you to unmute your. Let me see. I'm gonna click on this. Okay, I'm gonna ask you to unmute yourself.
I think I'm unmuted, right?
Yes, you are.
So I'm going through this process of, identifying a thought. I mean, when I even look at it, it's like it kind of just dissolves. So it's like to ask the question, is this true or not? It's like it's almost already gone. So am I cheating? I mean, it's like, is it necessary to go through that process if it, yeah.
Yeah, great question. It's a very good question. So as it dissolves, that is one way to see it's not even not true. So you've already arrived there, and you may have gone through the whole process and it's perfect. The thing that's interesting then is to simply go through that process many times and be interested in how you go through it, so that as you go through the day, and there are certain thoughts that do not just dissolve, that you can see how it dissolves. And again, I want to be completely clear on this. There is a clear, compassionate mind that is realized, that guides our actual daily activities, the way we really interact with real people in real situations. The more that that comes forth, the more that this process has been completed. So that's something which I want to be clear. A lot of us, we learn Buddhism, we learn to set aside our thoughts, and we do that. And yet quietly, deep down, we believe, you know, I should set aside my thoughts.
Yeah, that's kind of what it feels like.
Yeah, but even that is clinging to a view. And because of that, a wisdom, a compassion doesn't come forth. But for us to actually be able to collaborate within the Dharma for the benefit of all beings, we go through this process sufficiently so that that is realized. And let me put it this way. One of the kindest things, one of the most extraordinary moments of my training, it may not seem very extraordinary now that I say it, but it was very helpful for me that my teacher, Taigen Shodo Roshi, a teacher in Japan, at one point he said, the ultimate purpose of the path and the ultimate measure of the path is how grateful others are for our place in their lives. And when he said it, it was as if some distant thing called the way was just right in my face, completely clear. And again, this metaphor might seem so mundane, it's ridiculous, but it was as if, I know this is going to sound a little weird, but as if someone had been talking about applesauce for years, and then I actually took a bite of applesauce. And I knew, oh, this is why they say it's sweet and mushy, but a little tart. And I know now. And it was as if something happened for me where the path, it was clear. Am I following the path? Well, it's pretty easy to know. Are others actively appreciative of my place in their lives? It's amazing. It was clear. In the same way, as we go through this process and the clarity comes forth, the compassion comes forth, it's as if something beyond the human, beyond what we could have made up, is functioning. And don't misunderstand, I'm enormously grateful for the Roshi's place in my life. It doesn't mean I always feel comfortable around him. He demands things of me that are hard. He behaves in ways that are wise and compassionate, but which are contrary to my patterns. So it's not to say that the measure of the path is, do you agree with everyone? The Buddha doesn't say, he says, I do not fight with the world. He doesn't say, I agree with everyone in the world. These are two very different things. And so we start to see how it is that we don't have to agree with everyone. We don't have to be even nice to everyone. We find something coming forth and people are drawn into it and are happier because of that. They're more at peace because of that. They have more self-confidence because of that. And they find more love for the world because of that. None of this is about me. None of this is that I did it. That is how we know that this process is unfolding, because that comes forth more and more. So it's a reason that it can be helpful to consciously go through the process of noticing, here are the ways in which the thought is falling apart. Even though it may be falling apart, we're aware of that, and then it has fallen apart, and then does something come forth? If it does, rejoice in it. Does this clarify or not?
Yeah, the part about other people benefiting from my presence. I know that people do because they've told me, but then I question that as, like my mind questions that as far as, is that ego or whatever? So it's like however I come at it, my mind questions it, even if it's something that's good, So, then I witness that, but
yes,
it's so tricky.
No, not tricky. Perfect.
Okay.
That's exactly how it is. Your mind will come up with something, and then you just apply this technique to that, which sounds like exactly what you're doing.
Great.
Yes. Excellent.
Thank you. So Justin has a question, but before I unmute Justin, I want to highlight something that show you that you said earlier that I think was actually really important, worth repeating, which is that the marker of the practice you just taught us is a marker of the success is compassion. Right? Because it felt like a cognitive practice, just thinking, how is this untrue? How is this not untrue? But that is not actually about the thinking, it's about the compassion. That is the final marker. So I think it's worth repeating. And with that, Justin, do you still want to ask your question? Okay, let me unmute.
I think I'll let Alex go. And if there's time, I'll go.
Okay, you're Alex. Okay, sounds good. Okay, so Alex, you have a question, and then we have time after that. We'll let Justin ask the question. So Alex, please unmute yourself.
Well, thank you, Justin. And thank you for the talks. It's been very good to hear your thoughts on this. But I guess my question is connected to what Robin and what just Meng said, which is kind of, as I'm hearing you talk about it, and as we just did this practice, like the discussion just now was kind of about what one would call like readouts, right? Or like a measure of, are we doing this right, kind of a thing. And I find myself that both in the practice that we did just now, and just in general, when I kind of recall my experiences with kind of similar practicing of like letting go of the kind of like mental or like clinging to, I like what you said, models, right, of things, that the things that I experience are often confusion, resistance, lots of things, actually almost bodily resistance sometimes. And I do not feel compassion necessarily. On the other hand, I do feel compassion sometimes, or kind of more bodily positive experiences when I feel like I am close to a certain model of reality or myself or whatever. And so I am a little bit confused about the, like, how do you know, and like the measures, which is kind of what we were talking about, but I find the answer still slightly unclear, if that makes sense.
Oh, no, this is exactly right. It's very important to bring it up, and you've said it with great eloquence. It is just like this. I brought up this distinction in history in order to point out examples of precisely what you're describing. And again, you're putting it with great clarity and eloquence. There is a way that we come up with models, and that model seems very close to reality, and it seems to motivate us toward kindness. That's a real thing, and various traditions attempt to use that method. Okay? So I brought up a number of them in the talk. It seems very effective from within its confines. It's very compelling to do things in that way. And our bodies seem to respond well to it. One way to understand what people want, how people live their lives, is that people want understanding for their minds and comfort for their bodies. They want minds that understand and bodies that are comfortable. And you see how you do that. You now know, well, when my body's uncomfortable, if I have a certain thought that explains things in a certain way, my body feels much more comfortable. It seems to be working. And that's the reason that we just bow our heads. This is the reason that with endless gratitude, we appreciate the wisdom of the Buddha, that he saw through that somehow and saw that, yes, it seems to be working. You feel bad as an alcoholic. You go to the bar, you immediately feel better. You take a drink and you feel much better. And yet it doesn't really work. And you say, no, what are you talking about? It worked. It worked great. I feel so much better. To be able to see that that cycle doesn't actually lead anywhere. It endlessly seems to be about to lead there, and it never really does. The alcoholic destroys their life, even though everything seems to feel better again and again. We hold on to our views, and it seems like we're about to finally figure it out and know the right way to live, and everything will be okay. And then life is destroyed more somehow. And we feel like, well, maybe if I got a little bit of a better model. Now, again, the problem isn't exploring. The problem is then any belief that I'm right, any actual adherence to the view. There's some other thing, which is the revolutionary contribution to history that the Buddha gave us, which I would suggest is the most important contribution to human history. And that is that if you let go of that, something else comes forth that is wisdom. When that wisdom functions, it is compassion. And what you're going through, this I hope everyone hears, because again, you put it in such eloquent terms. What you're going through, your body's uncomfortable. Your mind's confused. Your body's even more uncomfortable. Your body actively starts resisting the process. I know it seems like everything's going wrong, but for many of us, that's exactly how this works. It is exactly how it works. You're describing it. Now, if we then say, oh, okay, now I'll make myself be like her, well, then you're clinging to a view again. But if that's the thing that comes forth, then let that come forth. The first time I ever meditated, I had this experience times a million. Meng held up a book earlier in which I described this. And I hated it. And it led to an experience that changed my life. So I can only say, yes, let this process unfold. It is a practice. And we did it for 10 minutes. And the question is following it through to its completion. Does that help at all?
Yeah. Very much like everything you said. My mom was like, "Yep, that's that tracks." You know, I mean, it's kind of an answer that no one wants to hear, kind of a thing. I mean, just like you just kind of have to go through it and like just stick with it. But yeah, it does make sense. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alex. So, Soryu, we have one more question. We have about 5 minutes. Justin appears to have let go of his our kindness and compassion, and Ines has a hand raised. So, Soryu, shall we take a question from Ines, but mindful that we have 5 minutes? Okay.
Yes.
Sounds good. Ines, I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself. Right there.
All right. Yeah. Does that work?
Yes,
Yes.
it does.
Thanks. Thank you. Hi, Soryu. I wonder if you can clarify what I would call maybe this feedback loop between the rising of doubts and all the emotional content that can arise through some physical sensations, which is usually a content which it is much harder to work and even practice. Is it true? Is it not even true? Like, I feel that it's easier to apply the technique, for instance, that you shared today with thoughts, and with patterns of emotion, it's usually much harder, right? For different reasons. And I feel that in my practice, I haven't really found or understood or just practiced enough how to observe mindfully emotions, how they manifest, without bypassing those emotions, very often related to deep wounds and even what we can feel as very basic needs, right? Yeah, is that clear, the question?
Of course.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes, so
Thank
this
you.
is another aspect of the same practice. And you have trained here, and so you know my approach, that of course we do work with emotions. We talk about this, quote, cessation of perception and feeling. And you can put the thoughts into the perception category, and you can put the emotions into the feeling category. And that's another aspect of that profound practice. Just as you already know to do, we can take this very practice and apply it non-verbally to the emotions. So we have a thought, and then we can apply a thought to that, correct? For example, the thought would be, how is this not true? So you have a thought, you apply a thought to it. In just the same way, you have an emotion that seems very true. And sometimes it seems like it doesn't even matter if it's true. It's so important. Even if it's not true, it's true. You know what I mean? You cling to the emotion that strongly. I don't even care if it's true. I feel it. There can be that kind of thing. You then learn how to, in your body, apply doubt. There's a feeling of doubt that you apply to that emotional experience. Now, I would recommend...
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I wonder if this is related to the fabrication of the perception, the physical sensation, due to how we look at it and the degree of equanimity that we have towards it. So in this sense, the emotion is fabricated depending on our way of looking and the degree of mindfulness we have in the moment. Is that what you're pointing at?
Yes, that's right. That's right. So the emotion is functioning, it's cycling. It arises and passes away. Sometimes very strong, sometimes not as strong. And we can, through mindfulness, be simultaneously aware of it in the way that I was just recommending, that you be aware of the thought. Before breaking it down, you're aware of the thought. You're bodily aware of the emotion. Not mentally aware of the emotion, bodily aware of the emotion. And then right there, you apply the bodily feeling of doubt to that emotion. So when you doubt something, you bodily doubt it. Does that make sense?
No.
Yeah, so if you pay attention, when you mentally doubt something,
Yeah.
your body has a reaction to that. There's a feedback loop there as well.
Okay.
So if you're certain about something, you say, this is true. There is a thought, there's also a bodily reaction. And that's the feedback loop you were describing. And I talk a lot about feedback loops, as you know. The Buddha talked a lot about feedback loops and how it is that you can, if just by removing one piece, the whole thing falls. So he empowers us in that way. So you have one part of the feedback loop, which is the feeling. You then, in your body, you know the feeling of doubt, because in the same way as I know this is true. You see my body changes when I say it, right? There's a change in my posture. In my breathing, there's a change. When you doubt something, there's a change in your posture, a change in your breathing, a change in your facial expression, a change in the way it feels here, which is why the tone of voice changes.
Mm-hmm.
You apply all of that directly to that emotion. And just let them be with each other. Let them meet. In the same way that the question, how is this not true, just meets the thought. And they just are there together and they interact. Same way you apply the bodily experience of doubt to the emotion. Now, last thing I'll say is that you brought up the feedback loop. I would recommend that you actually start with the thoughts, because the thoughts and emotions have their own feedback loop. So you weaken the thought first. Then you take on the practice that you're describing and you meet the emotional holding, the bodily holding, and allow that to dissolve. And then you begin, and don't rush this process, but then you begin to feel a different kind of clarity in your body. Your body relaxes, is open, and mysteriously a compassion arises.
Yeah. So it's actually a combination, right? And sometimes we're able to track the thoughts related to the emotions, sometimes not, sometimes it's very hidden. It doesn't matter. Like if there's a way to track the thoughts that fits the emotion, we work first with it and still trying to access another way of being in the body that maybe the emotion dissolves because we access something deeper. Is that a good way to?
That is exactly right. That's exactly how we do it.
Thank you so much, Ines. Okay, we come to the end of our program. So Soryu, I'm really going to miss seeing you every week, and I know that is true, and I'm holding on to that thought. With that, Master Soryu, can you please lead us in a closing dedication and bless all of us?
Yes. Sabba papa sakaranang kusalasa upasampada sacitta pariyodapanang etam buddhana sasanam.
Sadhu,
May you
sadhu,
be well.
sadhu.
May you be free from suffering. May we live in a way that is of benefit to all beings. May we walk this path to completion. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's all bow to the Master. Thank you, Master. So for those of you who are certain you're going to miss Soryu, don't worry, we recycle our Venerables, so you'll see him sometime again in the future. And also as a reminder, my friends, this recording will be uploaded to Buddhism-dot-net YouTube channel in a small number of days. And feel free to watch it again or share with your friends. And if you like to practice generosity, please feel free to donate directly to Soryu's organization, which is Maple, and we will be sharing the link on chat and by email. So next week, we're going to have Venerable Dhammika from Australia. He served most of his time in Singapore, so those of you from Singapore would know him. And he's the author of 25 books. So he's very cool. Please come by, and it'll be a Vesak Day special. He'll just be here for one session, and it's for Vesak Day. And he'll be talking about the other mindfulness. And then after that, we'll take a week's break, and then we'll have Zen Master Roshi Joan Halifax, who is one of the greatest Zen masters, Western Zen masters alive. And she'll be talking about activism and the Bodhisattva attitude. So again, the links will be in chat and in email. And please sign up. And with that, my friends, thank you so much for being here.